Hello and welcome to The Ripple Impact, the podcast where we dive into those fascinating small moments, bold decisions and unexpected ripples that create waves of change in brands, businesses, leadership and in life. I'm Laura Barber, founder of The Ripple Impact and a global brand strategist who spent over 20 years inside global giants like Coca-Cola and Boots. I now work with founders and leaders on strategy, positioning and storytelling, helping them turn powerful human stories into brand growth. Each week, I sit down with what we call wave maker guests to explore the ripple moments that have shaped their journeys and the lessons you can take into your own life and your work. Today, I am so excited to welcome Anne Nicholls to the show, an educator, an activist, and someone who saw something deeply unfair and chose to act. Exactly the kind of ripples we love to have on the show. Anne's work in Kenya is transforming access to menstrual health, education, challenging stigma, empowering girls, and bringing boys into the conversation. What started as a moment of shock has become a movement changing thousands of lives through education, usable pads, and real cultural change. Anne isn't just solving a problem, she's helping girls reclaim their futures. And I have to say, this one feels really special to me and especially close to my heart. I was born in Zambia and we spent many years in Zambia and Tanzania. So Africa has always been really close to my heart. So with the moment I heard Anne's story, I just knew I had to have her on my podcast so we can spread this incredible story and the impact that she is making. So Anne, welcome to the Ripple Impact Show. It is such a joy to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm pleased to be here. Happy to share.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you on the show. And I would love to start right at the beginning and what created this wave, what created this movement, the ripple moments. How did you get here? Like, what has created this incredible charity that you've built? Take us way back to the beginning.
So, like you, I grew up in Africa, but I grew up in Kenya. I went to school in Kenya and came back to the UK sort of mid-teens and always wanted to go back. But then, you go to university, you start working, you have a family, you have a job, and never managed to do it until a little bit later in life. And when I retired, I decided that I was going to go back. I was a teacher and I was a lecturer at Middlesex University. And I found a charity that is run by the most remarkable group of women called the Amara Charitable Trust. And these women take down old Mbati tin classrooms and build really beautiful brick structures that are conducive for learning. And so I went to work with them to be part of their school network and just kind of offer my services as a teacher, doing whatever they wanted. And we were on one visit and I met a lady called Madhvi Dalal, and she is now what we call PadMad Kenya. And she was running a sewing workshop and she was making reusable pads. And at this point, I was 61, 62, and I was shocked. I was so embarrassed because I'd never even heard of them. I didn't even know they existed, reusable period products. And she was completely inspirational. And I thought, why on earth are you making these? What's this all about? She was making them because the school that we were working with was a very poor, underserved community. And the girls weren't going to school. And again, I was shocked and I was embarrassed. And I thought, how do you not know about this? Girls actually not going to school when they were menstruating because their families were just too poor to buy products. And so she was making these beautiful pads, which were not only reusable, they're sustainable. And the girls were coming to school. And I thought at that point, I think at that time I had my daughter with me. I have 4 boys and I have 1 daughter. And the thought of being a mother in that school and my 4 boys being allowed just to go to school whenever they wanted, but my daughter would not have gone to school for 3, 4, 5 days every single month. But not just that month, the next month and the one after and the one after. Yeah. And that just didn't sit well with me. And I just thought, oh my God, that's horrific, How are boys allowed to go to school? Where is the gender equality here? So, yeah, that kind of lit a fire with
Yeah.
me.
It's such an incredible thing to see something and feel a sense of injustice and go, this is just not fair. This is just not right. What can I do about it? What were the steps from seeing that and experiencing and seeing the injustice of these girls just not going through education because of a simple thing like periods? How did you go from that moment to learning about the bigger issue that's been faced, the injustice, the shame, the stigma that sits around it, to then ultimately setting up a charity? Like, tell us the journey that you took from that moment of realization to what you're doing today, because there's a huge leap.
It's been done in stages, and we don't know everything. We just, when we have a kind of a burning desire and a passion, we kind of just leap straight in, don't we, sometimes? And sometimes with very little knowledge and understanding, you just think, I've got to help, I've got to do something. So it's taken 7 years to get to this stage, and it's taken 7 years through constant feedback and looking at what we're doing, and then understanding the different culture for start, but also different things that were going on. So after that school, I came back. And I said to my husband, I'm going back and I want to fundraise, and we're going to do these pads. We're going to help Madfeet, and we're going to work with the Amara schools, and we're going to go out and give these pads. So at least the girls in this school can go to school if they want to. Because one of the things that the girls were telling me was that they would quite like to be a doctor or a teacher or a nurse or a musician or something that required, tertiary education or technical college, something like that. But if you're not going to school for that length of time, it accumulates. And your knowledge gets less and less. The boys are still learning about the science. And then you've missed 5 days and you've missed a big chunk. And that catching up is really difficult.
And you multiply that over a year, you multiply that over multiple years, you multiply that about the amount of girls that are in a school, you multiply that by the amount of schools that exist in Kenya, let alone in any other country. The impact of not going to school is absolutely huge when you multiply that up, and what a huge impact
And I have
that
to
is
say,
having.
this is my work in Kenya, but we have period poverty in this country as well, and every other country in the world. This is not just a Kenyan problem. But I came back and I did some fundraising with family and friends, and just got everybody to donate some money. I mean, now 7 years on, my family and friends run. The minute I say go to Kenya, they're like, oh no more. But they were great, and they supported the project, and we did lots of fundraising things. And I went back and I worked with one of the Amara schools, a big school, and just handed out the pads and thought, yeah, this is great. I've done this, and you feel kind of like quite chuffed with yourself. That I thought, okay, now this whole group of girls will be able to go to school. They'll fulfill their dreams, their ambitions. And I was lucky enough to go back about 6 months later. And I decided to go back and get some feedback on the pads, how they like them, while they're washing them. Now, these are the pads. I'm going to show you. Yeah. So these are the pads. So they're beautiful. We have lots of different sizes, smaller ones, bigger ones. They can join together, but they're washable. So one pack, and the girls get a dignity bag with a pack of pads, and you take them home. You just fold them up, put them in a little bag, take them home, wash them, dry them, and they're ready to use next month and the month after and the month after. And actually, these are now lasting 5 years, which is incredible. So when I went back to the school, the girls loved them. They're soft, they're comfy, and the good thing about these is they don't have chemicals in them. There's nothing disrupting our endocrine system with these pads like normal pads. There's no plastic apart from these tiny poppers, but 5 years, for one of these, and that's pretty sustainable. But when I went back and I had a group of girls, and we were chatting about the pads and their periods, and they'd thrown every single one of them into the bin. I was horrified. I would nearly cried because we had raised thousands and thousands of pounds to buy all these pads and to distribute them. And that's what I mean about this has taken a 7-year journey. You know, you learn from these mistakes. And so I said, well, did you not like them? They said, no, they love them. They're soft, they're comfy, they're absorbent, they're great at night. Okay. And you washed them, they wash okay. Yeah, wash them because we talked about the washing. And then you hang them in that beautiful Kenyan sun to dry. So they're all nice and dry, ready for the next time. And that's when they said no. They wouldn't put them in the sun to dry. They wouldn't put them outside to dry. They dried them under their mattresses. So the next time they went to get them, of course, they're all soggy, still wet, mouldy, disgusting, and they had to go in the bin. So in order to get to the bottom of that, we chatted about it. And the reason was that a man might see the pads, or a boy, or an uncle, or a father, or something. And the shame about having a period, not talking about periods, that they were disgusting, they were dirty, was just too much.
Yeah. Where does that come from? Because it's such a natural thing. Why is there such shame around it? Why is there this sense of it's dirty?
I mean, it
why
comes
is that
from
in people's
a long
psyche?
time ago, doesn't it? And we're still wrapped up in religious beliefs and cultural traditions. You know, my friend Smita told me that she was never allowed, and her and I are the same age, but when she married, she was never allowed to be in the kitchen or sit with the family and eat food, because when we're menstruating, we're considered dirty and impure, and you're not allowed to be, you know, in certain churches, certain temples, certain mosques, because you're impure and unclean. So it comes from a long way back. So that's why we needed to do something about that. So it wasn't just about handing out the pads. And the other thing that we found was the girls really lacked menstrual knowledge about their bodies. You know, we're all given biology lessons, aren't we?
Was it being taught in schools? Was that one of the reasons why?
I don't think it's taught in many schools. You get the biology to sit your GCSE, don't you? You know, all my boys can tell me their biology facts about periods. But, you know, tracking your cycle, understanding your flow, understanding your hormones, all those are very different things. So from that, chucking them in the bin, we needed to go back and think about how we could teach the girls and what we could teach them. So I kind of teamed up with different professionals in Nairobi, and I worked with Dr. Judy, who's amazing, and other different people who come on the journey with me. And we set about writing with my teaching knowledge, her medical background. We have a little booklet where we teach menstrual health, and she always comes with me, and we teach menstrual and sexual health. And that was working well, really, really well. Those two combined.
Yeah, it's amazing because this isn't just about pads, because as you said, there's a whole stigma and culture that sits around it, and actually this is more about silence, and it's about shame, and it's about stigma. And I know that your work is not just about educating girls, but also educating boys in the conversation as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I've been doing it for a few years, and it was always the thing where the boys were never included. You couldn't, you know, and if the boys turned up at a lesson, they were chucked out. And so we were teaching the girls. And remember, the girls got these fabulous, what we call dignity bags, full of pads and knickers and soap and pens and pencils. And they were having this lesson. And every single time we would have a lesson, Judy and I, the boys would be peeping in the windows. They'd be peering round the door. They'd be like, can I come in? Can I come in? And the teachers, they're quite strict. They're like, no, out, 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 out. And Judy and I talked, and I thought, do you know what? They're the root of the problem, really. They're the ones that are causing the problem. They're the ones that are calling the girls dirty. They're the ones that are making the girls ashamed. They're the ones doing the embarrassing, you know. And so Judy and I just said, well, let's do something for the boys. And so we invited them in, and we just talked. And the boys actually are brilliant. They're really brilliant because the girls are very quiet and very shy.
Yeah.
Until you get talking. And then, once we all start sharing stories, it comes out. But the boys wanted to know. But the boys were full of myths and misconceptions and untruths. And, you show them the pad and they're like, oh, it's like, but, once you talk through the biology and talk through all the misconceptions and just chat, and we do games and things, and it's great. They love to talk. They love to talk.
Yeah. That's the thing as well, isn't it? Because kids are naturally inquisitive, and I love the visual image of the boys kind of peeking through the window and peeping around the door and like, what's going on? And wanting to be
Yeah.
involved and feeling jealousy because like something's happening and we've been told we're not allowed, so I definitely want to be involved. That's lovely. So talk us through that classroom moment, right? Because obviously you had years of teaching, so you had all that wonderful background that you could bring into those conversations. How do you start a conversation with girls around periods and menstrual health and sexual health in a room of very, very quiet people? And as you said, until they get talking, what were some of the things that came up? What were some of the things that got said?
Well, the girls just thought they were dirty. They were impure. I mean, both sexes think that. And that it was something that should be kept quiet, kept under the counter,
Right.
and just hidden, and nobody talks about it. So to start talking about it is hard. I do a lot of work actually with post-it notes, and we start off by just writing on a post-it note what is a period, so they'll know what a period is biologically. But how does it make you feel? What's happening to you? And have you ever been embarrassed, or what? That sort of thing. And then once we start talking, the post-it notes get screwed up and chucked, and then we gently open them up, and so it's an anonymous question. Or an anonymous, this one thinks is dirty, or this one you're impure, this one you're this one you're that. And so we gather them up, and then we just talk. I talk very openly about periods with them, and gradually they come back and they start like you say, they're inquisitive. They want to know more, because that knowledge is power in understanding your own body.
Yeah.
That not everybody's period is 28 days. Some of us can go up to 30, 31 days. Some of us are a bit shorter than that. And that's absolutely normal. Just because it's not 28, it's like, oh, I'm not normal. So we have a tracking system that's on a piece of paper, just on a circle, and we measure our flow. So then we know that once we've done a few months of tracking, we know that day 2 is going to be quite heavy, so we can prepare for that. And if it, that we last 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, depending on who you are. We're all unique and we're all different. And to track our moods, to say when we're coming up, that PMT that used to, when you used to get angry and irritable and, and I used to say that's not the best time to enter into negotiation or have an argument. Just save it for afterwards, when you're in that nice estrogen level and you're all calm and happy, and it'll be nice, Yeah. So just giving them the knowledge and telling us that, that we're all unique, we're all different, but we all shed blood, and we're exactly the same. Judy and I talk about our experiences and how what happened to us and how we got on, and then other people start sharing, and that's when it becomes normal, more interesting, really, and they can ask questions.
Yeah, and letting people ask questions is lovely because, as you said, allowing people to have the conversations and getting it to a point where it feels normal, not like taboo or embarrassing or silly or giggling. Or the more we talk about these things, the more we normalize it. And I know you talked about, obviously this is a problem that is, worldwide. This isn't specific to Kenya, but I suppose there's other bigger topics that sit around this as well, isn't there, in terms of sexual abuse, around HIV, sexual health, survivor's guilt, etc. Like there's a lot of other things that sit around periods and women's health and all the other things that links to. Do you see that playing out in Kenya in terms of the bigger challenges?
We talked about periods for a while, and then every conversation that we were having with girls and the head teachers or the teachers in the school, it would always come up that young girls were pregnant. Young girls had STIs. In certain areas, the HIV rate for young girls is sky high. And so Judy and I had a conversation, and we talked to other health professionals and decided that we had to include sexual health as well as menstrual health. Because what was happening in the very poorer communities, that were girls were being lured or coerced into exchanging their bodies for sex. And so for sex, for pads, hygiene products, food, all sorts of other things, but hygiene products in particular. And in some cases, they were being lured by men who knew they were coming up to menstruation and were giving them all these products so they could manage their period. And then, of course, they ask for money and the girls can't give it. So in exchange, they have sex. And, you know, the adolescent pregnancy rate is huge. HIV is huge. So now I also have an HIV clinician, depending on where I'm working, but most of the time there's somebody from a clinic who comes and we talk about, again, that's a stigma. It's a shame, you know, but we talk about it. So this lady Sento comes with me if I'm going to the Maasai communities. Judy again will come if we're in Nairobi. And we talk about HIV. We talk about what to look for and where the help is, how to get help. Just come. It isn't a shame. They can help you. Just come to the clinic. This is where it is. Come and talk to me. And just by having that conversation and opening it up, they're able to help quite a lot of young women. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's the darker realities of poverty, isn't it? I mean, just the thought that people are using the fact that girls don't have period products to coerce them into sex is just unbelievably shocking. And the fact that if you're able to provide these sustainable period pads for girls, that you have a hand in stopping the coercion that is present in these communities and in these countries is, that's unbelievable. It's quite a shocking
It's just
story.
really sad that men are using and leveraging menstrual needs, for sex, and that's why it's important to talk to the boys so that they become our allies and advocates, and hopefully they're not the bystanders anymore, and they will say, enough's enough.
Yeah, as you said, creating allies in boys and men is so important. I did some volunteering work back in 19 when I could, just before COVID hit, and I was doing a girls empowerment volunteering program, and part of that was in Zambia where I was born, and exactly that, of bringing men and boys into the conversation to remove the stigma, to change the perceptions, as you said, to unravel some of the myths that exist, to help educate so that there can be a support system around these girls as well. Because it can't just be women and girls that change the systems and change the perceptions. Men and boys have to get involved in these conversations, in these programs, in these issues, be allies to change, because we are not going to change systems without broader support. It's just not going to happen. And I loved, there was a wonderful moment when we spoke, because I heard you talk about your incredible work and I was so deeply touched and moved by it. And I loved when you talked before about the transformative nature in these classrooms, from silence and shame and a bit of embarrassment to laughter and singing in the classrooms. Can you tell our listeners and our YouTube watchers about that? Because, it's a difficult subject to talk about, and some of the issues you just brought up there are deeply difficult, are deeply moving, and probably triggering for some people as well. But there is lightness in the darkness too.
We started off doing sewing workshops, teaching the girls how to make these pads. But quite honestly, if you've had 50 girls and you've only got about 4 or 5 pairs of hands and none of them can sew or thread a needle, it was like, I can't do this anymore. So what we did was we invited the mothers to come and we would run a sewing workshop with them. And I also work with a fabulous organisation called Clean Start, who are women who have been incarcerated and now on a kind of education and mentoring program. And so I've run several workshops at Clean Start, and with the mums at school, we just get lots of material and we run the workshop. And again, the women are quite quiet. We're talking about periods. We're talking about something that we keep in here. We don't discuss. Even with other women, we don't discuss it. Yeah. So with women, we just start kind of singing. So come on, sing us, because they love singing, and we just start singing. We're singing and sewing, and then we might share something about a period. Like, oh my God, have you done this? Well, I've done that. I'll tell you some of my embarrassing moments, whatever. And then once you've shared that, then somebody else. And I said, let's just only if you want to. But this one lady really touched my heart, and she was 63, and she said to me, "Anne, this is the first time I've said that word out loud." Said period out loud. I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Yeah," she said, "I didn't tell my mum when I started. I didn't do anything. And I used to take the stuffing out of the sofa and use it as an absorbent material. And then obviously sometimes I didn't go to school because I didn't have enough, or I thought my mum would see that I'd be taking bits out of the sofa all the time, and she hadn't done it. But she is one of the people that started a little business afterwards, because she was a beautiful sewer. And she said, "I'm going to start this, and I'm going to take them back to my village, and I'm going to make sure those girls go to school, and we're all going to get together." So one of the things I do, if I have enough money from my fundraising, is to buy that community a sewing machine and give lots of material to them so that they can sew pads. But they're like the social media, the Instagram of the villages now, because they are so determined that their girls are going to go to school and that they're going to speak about it. And if they get these pads, they are going to hang them on the line to dry, or put them out on the bush in the sun. Nobody's going to tell them that they can't go to school, which is great. Love it.
Yeah. Oh, it's incredible. It's that lovely saying that I'm probably going to get wrong, but it's that lovely of saying of, give a family a fish and they can feed their family for an evening, but give them an ability to go fishing and they can feed their family for a lifetime. And and that's what you're doing in terms of the education, but also kind of the sewing machines and the materials so that they can make their own, which is just incredible. Like your story is just so inspiring and so wonderful, from breaking the silence to talking about periods and trying to undo the shame and the stigma that sits around it. So it's so inspiring. And you're a one woman band, right? You're a one woman movement, which I just absolutely love. I just want this to just go spread and just go wildfire. So just what you're doing is just so incredible. But you've described it as like, it's just kind of gone mad, and it's growing and it's scaling it, and it's expanding into prisons and slum schools and community projects. And, that doesn't happen by accident. That happens with real graft, real determination. As you said, 7 years in the making to get to where you've got to now. Tell us about the journey of 7 years. Tell us about what you're doing now. Tell us what you need from people and support and help that you would ask from others as well.
Yeah, it has been 7 years, but we've had quite a few failures on the way. Things have gone wrong, but it's just learning each time. Don't think about it as a failure. Think about it as the next learning steps, and what can you do to move forward. So each project that I do, I say, how did that go? How did that feel for you? What did you like? What did you not like? How could we improve it and keep improving it for that particular community or school, just to make it better for them? There was one school that I went to, and I were there for 2 days, and we lived away with a Maasai community for 2 days. And the head teacher, who was a man, he sat in on the last bit of the lesson. So for 2 days, there was 4 of us teaching. And he sat in, and he came to the front at the end of the lesson. In front of them, we had about 150, 200 kids in this big tin hall. And he just gave me this biggest hug. The kids are like, "Oh, what's that about?" And he just whispered, he said, "Thank you, because I couldn't have done that." And I said, "Well, yeah, but that's me and the team that are here, So I might be a one-woman band here in the UK, and yes, it's me fundraising, and that is my job. I'm kind of a conduit, if you like, a bridge to fundraise here.
Yeah.
So, I'll come anywhere to speak. I run sewing workshops here. where we sew and we chat, and we chat periods and all sorts of things as well. And then the money raised goes back, and then I work with Judy and Cento and Lucy and other volunteers out there that what do we need to do, and who do we need, and who wants it. So projects are now coming to us to say, could you come to us, and this is what we'd like, this is what we need, and then we'll look at it and we'll do that. So there's people there already doing it. But what I love is that, social media is so fantastic, isn't it? It reaches people all over the world. And there's a lot of young women who want to do this as well. And so they're reaching out and saying, how can I do this with my community? How can I do this with, this school or whatever? So this time when I go to Kenya, I'm going to find somewhere where all these young women can come and see if we can start something a little different about how they then go out and teach, and how we fundraise for them to go out and take it a bit further to their community. But about having the boys as allies, I have a lot of allies now with men who actually really love, and for me, they are true men because they embrace equality, and they embrace the girls wanting to go to school, and they're not frightened to say periods and menstruation and all the rest of it. I take them with me too. So they come, so it's not me just talking. I mean, I do talk to the boys. I talk to the boys a lot about who they want to be and what sort of man do they want to be. And we talk a lot about that, but these other men come so that they can see how much this man isn't afraid of talking about periods. This man isn't afraid of girls coming to school as well, and it works. It really it works well. It's lovely.
And I love the story of that male head teacher coming and giving you a hug at the end of the talk and at the end of the 2 days, because he's also role modeling to people as well. Because they were probably surprised, like, "Oh, the teacher let their guard down," and it's great because it just shows how powerful this is, how impactful this is, and how important it is also to that head teacher as well. And that is role modeling too, in terms of showing that to the children that are in front of him at that moment. So just fantastic stories. Fantastic stories. Do you feel like you were always meant to do this?
It does. I just wish it had come earlier in life. When something comes to you that drives you and really kind of ignites a passion in you, just do it. Just get on with it. Say yes. Figure it out as you go, which is exactly what we've been doing. But yeah, no, it works. It's really good.
The biggest congratulations, because I think what you're doing is just so wonderful and so inspiring and so needed. And as you said, if you can figure out a way, and I'd love to help you with this actually, if we can figure out a way of almost codifying what you're doing and spreading that and helping other people spread that as well, I just think it's genuinely life-changing work for people and for communities, girls, women and boys. I just think it's just so inspiring what you're doing. And I'm hoping that everyone is as touched and moved by your story as I am. If anyone's listening or watching, I'm like, how do I get involved? I want to be part of this. How can people help?
Well, the biggest thing is to help to fund a project. Each project costs about between £2,000 and £3,000. Not just because all the girls get dignity bags, but the schools also need stationery and supplies. And then I pay the doctors, the nurses, the HIV clinicians, anybody who comes with me. I don't expect anybody to come for free. I'm the only person that's free. Everybody else, I pay. Firstly, it's monetary. At the moment, I have a GoFundMe page. Which we can put a link to. That would be lovely. So that's the best way, because it costs £25 just for one of these bags. But inside it is a pack of 7 or 8 pads. They get a lot of knickers. They get soap for hygiene products. They get stuff, but also some things for the boys as well. We take boxer shorts out for the boys. I always take footballs and rugby balls and all sorts of other things, playground stuff, so they don't feel left out. So money's the first thing. Or have a sewing workshop. Somebody, in corporate or something, just get everybody together and have a sewing workshop, because it's fun, and you don't need to be able to sew.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. We will absolutely put the GoFundMe link in all the publications that we put out in the links in the full episode for everyone to check out your wonderful work. And where you can, please get involved in the GoFundMe page. And yeah, let's talk about the sewing workshops as well. I have an idea for you actually, but we can talk more about that afterwards. We are very quickly running out of time, which I'm very sad about because I could talk to you about hours. I could talk to you for hours because this is such a wonderful thing. And as I said before, but I will say it again, it's just such inspiring work that you are doing. We always ask this last question to all of our guests on the Ripple Impact. So we call our guests wave makers because they're making waves on the industry. You're actually making waves on the world, starting with Kenya. So thank you so deeply for that. What advice would you give to aspiring wave makers?
What advice? Oh, goodness. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, go for it.
Just fucking do it. Just do it. If you feel a real fire or passion in you, just do it. If you're going to help somebody, just do it. And the other thing is that what I've found recently, because I never believed this when I was younger, but my voice matters and your voice matters. Really, really does.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Just do it. Just do it.
I love that so much.
Find a solution and worry about, the consequences.
I love the just do it. But do you know what? I love that your voice matters even more. I think it's just so powerful. There's such a wonderful message in that. So thank you so much.
You.
Anne Nicholls, thank you so much for your time today. Your story is such an incredible reminder that ripples don't always start with a grand plan. Sometimes they start with deep purpose and discomfort and injustice, and you just saying, this is not right and I need to do something about it. You've shown what happens when compassion meets action, and dignity, education, and voices can change the course of people's lives. So thank you so deeply for your work. It's so inspiring. For everyone listening and YouTube watching, please check out the link, please check out the GoFundMe page, and know that sometimes something small can create the biggest of ways if you refuse to accept this is just how it is. So thank you so much for your time today. It's been so incredible speaking to you.
It's been brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. And if you're looking to elevate the human storytelling of your brand and your business, please get in touch with us at the Ripple Impact so we can see how we can help your business grow. That is a wrap on this Ripple episode. Tune in weekly for more bold voices and inspiring wave maker guests just like Anne. I'm Laura Barber. This is the Ripple Impact. We will see you all next week. Anne, thank you so much. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.